Superman. Not Superman and Man of Steel, not Superman Returns, none of that, just Superman. Not Superman the movie, just Superman. This movie stars a pretty good cast. It's got David Cornswet as Superman. And I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, people were expecting him to drop the ball or whatever, but I think he did a good job. I think this movie had the best interpretation of Lex Luthor also. I mean, there's been some good ones, but this one, Nicholas Hoult, played a good Lex Luthor. And he played Lex Luthor more as the angry businessman than as the supervillain that's going to put on the purple, robot outfit and go try to punch Superman in the face. I liked this version. The movie starts off years after Superman has been Superman. So he's Superman, and he's been doing it for a while, and the Justice Gang has been around for a while. There's only a few members. There is Green Lantern, Guy Gardner. There's Hawk Girl, makes you wonder where Hawkman is at. And there's Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific was good. He gets the lion's share of the movie. He's in more scenes than anybody else, except of course for Superman. The Justice Gang was good, but Mr. Terrific was the meat and potatoes. And I kind of think, I'm definitely going to get this guy's name wrong. Eddie Gathegi, I believe is what it is. I think that they gave him so much time, so much screen time, is because his previous superhero, Darwin, in the X-Men movie, they just did him dirty. His mutant superhuman power was essentially that he couldn't die. His body, his power would adapt. That's why he called himself Darwin. It would evolve for any situation. He knuckled up with the Incredible Hulk, and when his body couldn't sustain fighting the Hulk, it gave him the ability to teleport, and it just took him out of there. He fought Lady Death, and didn't die, sort of. So when he was in that movie, they just put a little energy in his mouth, and he blew up and died. And that would not have killed him. That's like saying somebody shot the Incredible Hulk with a regular bullet and he bled to death. It's not how his power works. But they did that, and it was like Gunn said, we're going to make up for that, man, and we're going to make you way more terrific than Mr. Terrific's supposed to be, because his character was very outspoken. Mr. Terrific's outspoken in the comic books, but his character had more, I guess they were trying to make it funny. I mean, Gunn did the Guardians movies. So I'm guessing, he was trying to stick a little humor in there, and he used Mr. Terrific, which, it was okay. But having Mr. Terrific, the third smartest person in all of DC, and Mr. Terrific came up with that list. So to be honest, he's probably just being modest. He probably is number one. But the third smartest person in DC, and I expected him to speak like, Hank McCoy, like the Beast, like Kelsey Grammer as the Beast. I expected him to have that kind of verbiage, but he talked like he was from off the corner. He's like, because I'm God, Mr. Terrific. And, I mean, it was cool. It was kind of funny, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting something different. That's my real only negative with him. Other than that, he was. I really enjoyed his interpretation. Now, the Arrowverse had their interpretation of Mr. Terrific also. He was okay, but I mean, Mr. Terrific is supposed to be in perfect physical health. He's supposed to be a perfect physical specimen, Olympic level athlete with a beyond genius level mind. He knows a ton of martial arts and hand-to-hand. He knows everything, man. And the CW, the Arrowverse's Mr. Terrific was okay, but I didn't really feel like he was that terrific. And I think that there were people in that show that were smarter than him. This Mr. Terrific was clearly the smartest person on screen. And this Mr. Terrific, there's a scene where he's surrounded by people who, are going to try to eventually knuckle up with Superman. And he just kind of walks right through them. He's beating people up. He's telling his T-Spears to hit people and knock them out and doing this. And he's fighting over here and he's throwing this dude around and he's commanding the T-Spear because he knows there's a dude behind him and it knocks. It was a good fight. I mean, Gunn has the Guardians of the Galaxy under his belt, and he's got a lot of good fight scenes. There was a good, that to me was probably the best fight scene. Even the people who witnessed it was like, dang, it was a good fight scene. So I really enjoyed Mr. Terrific. I know with the I know with the Black Adam movie, it looked like they were going to try to make a Justice Society or maybe even a standalone Hawkman movie. Kind of didn't happen. I could see a Mr. Terrific spinoff movie, or at least see him in more projects. I enjoyed Mr. Terrific. With that being said, Superman is fighting Lex, of course. That's his main guy. But traditionally, when you see it in comic books, well, not even comic books, but when you see it in live action, Lex wants to fight him, like fight him, like punch him in the face, fight him. There's the movie Unbreakable. The villain, Mr. Glass, says something that is spot on. There are two type of villains: the fighter, the warrior, and the strategic guy. The smart guy and the tough guy, basically. And usually they try to make Lex a mix of the two. And he wants to fight Superman. He wants to get him into a situation where he could beat him up, or have somebody else beat him down so he can beat him up. And they didn't do that here. They went with the intellectual Lex. He's outsmarting Superman. He's taken years to watch Superman fight so he can figure out how he fights. And then he can figure a counter for every one of his moves. But Lex isn't getting out there himself and fighting. He's not doing that. But it was cool because he could, just by looking at Superman, he was thinking uppercut, left cross, hip toss, punch to the face. He was thinking all of that, and he was countering Superman's moves, and he was giving orders to what would work against him. Now, he didn't fight him personally, but he had a headset on that he could talk to the person that was fighting Superman and tell them, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. And they instinctively did it, and they beat the brakes off of Superman. That was good. The movie itself was really good, but they twisted it and morphed it into the pages of a comic book. It was just like watching a live action comic book. All of the superhero movies are live action comic books, but they're the director's interpretation of what if this was happening in the real world. And here, there's a scene where it's clearly Mr. Mxyzptlk, and Superman just kind of sitting there, and Mxyzptlk is fighting with other people, and Lois is like, shouldn't you be out there? And he's like, it's just a other dimensional imp out there fighting. They can handle it. Other dimensional imp. That's Mr. Mixaplick. So they don't show him. They just show the energy. He's in the movie, which is kind of cool. I think Bizarro is going to be in a future movie. I think they're hinting towards the creation of Bizarro, which would be kind of cool. It's hard to talk about this movie without giving up some spoilers. There's a cameo from somebody we didn't expect. Something that's big. James Gunn likes working with the same people again and again and again, which is good. He's got his own, little acting troupe. So FYI, a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy are in this movie. They're hidden in the movie, and it's kind of cool. If you're just watching a movie with your family, you're sitting there watching a movie, you probably never know. But if you're making videos about the movie and you've got to listen to everything and watch everything and catch all of the details and do this and maybe write that down, and you're doing that, you'll probably notice them. Because as soon as you catch one, you'll be like, wow, was that dude? And then all of a sudden you catch another one, you'll be like, oh, that was that dude, and that's the other dude. And you'll see that they're in the movie. I liked Crypto. I did not think that I would, but I liked Crypto because they didn't give him too much. They kept him as basically comedy sidekick, and they gave him not too much to do, I guess. There's a scene where you're like, oh no, Crypto, oh no, he's gonna get hurt. And you actually feel for him, which was good. The movie pulls you in. It pulls you in. I'm gonna give a spoiler. I got to give up some spoilers. So from this point, be advised, for the next 30 seconds, 40 seconds, there's a spoiler. And it starts right about there. So, Supergirl is in the movie, just briefly, but she's drunk, and, okay, she's supposed to be, a teenager and act like a teenager, but she was too much like a teenager. She was like an unruly, whiny kind of a teenager. I don't think I'm going to like her. But then again, I didn't think I was going to like Crypto, and I ended up liking Crypto, but I'm not sure about that at all. There was a lot about this movie. I liked Lex. I liked the Justice Gang. Maxwell Lord is in the movie, but just briefly. He's in there for like 45 seconds. They clearly work for Maxwell Lord. The Hall of Justice is in this movie. They got a lot of nods without, they just show it. It's like, boom, it's the Hall of Justice. It's not like you've got to figure it out. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie that are great, and they just throw it right out there. There's an entire superhero ecosystem. There's an entire world that they allude to. And I enjoyed it. I'm curious about which Batman they're going to stick in this universe. There's a few of them now. There's basically 3. I'm guessing they're going to make a new one and not use one of the ones that are currently around, and Wonder Woman, they got to bring out a Wonder Woman. I'm wondering who's going to fill that billet. Is she going to be the goddess Wonder Woman? Is she going to be, the Amazonian Wonder Woman? They got a lot of ways to go. They've changed her a lot in the comics. I'm curious about that. I'm curious about a lot of things. I'm curious about the direction they're going to go. I don't want to give up too much of the story. It just came out. I may have to do a spoiler video because there's a lot to cover, that's hard to cover without just telling you A connects to B and B connects to C. Oh, and there's D. No one was expecting D. So, but I don't want to give it all away. But there's a lot. There's a couple of good fights. There's a hint that one of the villains may eventually be good and one of the villains may eventually be worse. So there's that. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Overall, this was a good movie. It was a good introduction to the new DC universe. There's a lot of things that are connecting to more universe. James Gunn is saying that he's not going to release a movie unless he believes the script is good, and all of the scripts have to go through him. So we're definitely going to get a connected universe, which sounds good because DC was kind of fluttering. To be completely honest, growing up for a long time, I enjoyed Marvel more than I enjoyed DC. But, you know, DC, to me, DC had more, as a kid, more action because people were more powerful. But the stories weren't as good because everybody was so powerful. Batman was the smartest. But then again, Lex was the smartest. Superman was the strongest. But then again, Wonder Woman was the strongest female. Everybody was the. Swamp Thing was just a dude that had an experiment that blew up in his face, and now he's the guardian of the green. He's essentially a god. You know, Firestorm was an experiment gone wrong. Now he's potentially a god. You know, I had a friend that said it. Everybody's a god in DC. And that gets boring after a while. But it looks like James Gunn is backing that up because Superman had a lot more humanity than I was expecting. And he even gives I'm human. I got a lot of humanity. He gives that type of a speech, which is cool. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure I liked the Kents, his family. You know, Pa Kent isn't dead yet. And Ma, they're both like yeehaw hillbilly country. They're not Southern. They speak with a real thick yeehaw, straw hat, barefoot, suspenders, carrying a shotgun with a dog named Old Yeller kind of accent. And I'm thinking if he grew up in that house, how come he doesn't have that accent? I mean, he's from another planet, so he picked up his accent from the people he hung around. I know a lot of girls, but I knew two girls that were from a different country. I know a lot of girls from different countries. Not that I know a lot of girls. I know a lot of people. But two girls from another different country. Both of them were from the same country. Both of them came here when they were young. One of them lived in one area, and she sounds like the people who lived in that area. The other one was from another area, and she sounds like the people who are from that area. We grow up emulating the people around us. You know? So they learn accents and the mannerisms from the people that they grew up around. They were people from somewhere else. They came here. They picked up the accents and the mannerisms of those people. Superman is from somewhere else. He came here, but he doesn't sound like Ma and Pa Kent. Because they sound, more country than the Andy Griffin Show. They was just, yeehaw, that kind of country. And I didn't dig that too much. Perry White didn't have a lot to do in this show. I just want to throw that out there too. They had a lot of characters though. They introduced a lot of characters, which was cool. But overall, I enjoyed this movie. In fact, overall, I enjoyed this movie so much that I thanks to my buddy, got a friend named Sherman that talked to me, and he gave me an idea of what he thought, and we agreed on the exact amount of popcorn that this deserves. And I'm going to go with what he said because I think it was spot on. I'm going to give this movie, according to my homeboy Sherman, I'm giving this movie 8 bags of popcorn. 8 bags of popcorn. Because that's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Now that you had a chance to look at the video, let's talk about it some more in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.
Popcorn passport. Get your popcorn passport.